He invented the rules of power. He still died broke, begging the same family he used to advise for any job they'd give him. That's not a contradiction. It's the first thing he'd want you to understand. Money and power are not the same thing. Confusing them is why most people stay broke. Rule 3 is why lucky people stay broke. Rule 7 is the one I wish I'd learned before it cost me everything. 7 rules, no hustle, just leverage. Let's go. Rule 1. Money is vert, stored. Money is not fortune's gift. It's vert, stored. Fortuna is the lucky break. Vert is the skill that can rebuild it tomorrow if it disappears tonight. I watched men at court get rich once on luck and spend the rest of their lives terrified because they knew, quietly, they couldn't do it again on purpose. Look at the great banking families of my own Florence. The ones who lasted generations didn't last because of one lucky loan. They built a system, ledgers, trusted agents in every city, a method that worked whether the head of the family was a genius or an average son. The families that vanished within a generation were almost always the ones who inherited money without ever inheriting the skill to replace it. If your money vanished tomorrow, could you rebuild it in a year using only what's in your skull? If not, you don't have money. You're renting a number from fortune. Rule 2. Never show the full treasury. A prince who displays his gold invites every ambitious man in the room to calculate how to take it. I saw merchants in Florence build beautiful houses specifically to look modest from the street, while the real wealth stayed inside because a house that looked rich attracted 2 kinds of visitors: tax collectors and men with knives. Same rule. Smaller stage today. The cousin who suddenly needs a loan, the friend with a business idea the week after your raise, the acquaintance who becomes very warm right after you mention a bonus. Discretion isn't shame, it's defense. Rule 3. The one about why lucky people stay broke. Promised you this one. Here it is. Rule 3. Debt is a leash, not a bridge. A debt you took to look successful is a leash. A debt you took to become more capable is a bridge. I know this one personally. After my exile, I spent years financially dependent on men I didn't respect, writing letters I was ashamed of, asking for scraps of work, because I'd let circumstance put a leash around my own neck. It wasn't luxury that put me there. It was years of being unprepared for a fall I should have seen coming. Every prince who borrowed to fund a war he could win came out stronger. Every prince who borrowed to fund a feast to impress his rivals came out weaker and owned by his lenders within a decade. Every coin you borrow buys a tool or buys an image. The tool pays you back. The image waits quietly to be repossessed. Rule 4. Feared by your bank account, not loved by your spending. Better to be feared by your own bank account than loved by your own spending. Loved by your spending means every purchase chases approval. Feared by your bank account means a discipline so strict even you don't cross it without a plan. Half the small courts of Italy bankrupted themselves trying to out-dazzle each other with banquets and gifts, buying love from men who forgot the favor by the following spring. The rulers who lasted were rarely the most generous. They were the ones whose spending had a spine. The ones remembered were feared for their discipline, not loved for their gifts. Rule 5. The fox reads before it signs. 2 rules left after this one, and Rule 7 explains why I ended up broke. Despite knowing all of this, stay with me. Not after. Every deal that ruins a man had warning signs. A partner too eager, terms too generous. A friend who wanted to skip the paperwork because we trust each other. I wrote once that a wise ruler cannot and should not keep every promise made to him when keeping it works against his own interest. And any partner worth trusting understands that people and contracts are tested by circumstance, not by good intentions on the day they're signed. Read for what happens when circumstances change, not just what's promised while they're good. Trust isn't a substitute for reading the document. It's usually the reason people stop reading it. Rule 6. Bought loyalty leaves cheaply. Loyalty you bought cheaply leaves you cheaply the moment the money stops. I watched mercenary armies fight hard for a paycheck and vanish, sometimes switch sides entirely, the second the enemy looks stronger than the employer. An army fighting for its own home fights very differently than an army fighting for someone else's coin. Business does the same thing. An employee, a partner, a friend kept only by what you pay them disappears exactly when you need them not to. Right when the money gets tight, and staying costs them something. Build on shared stake, not shared paycheck. Anything else is loyalty you're renting. One rule left. The one I promised you at the start. The one that explains everything about how I ended up on that farm. Rule 7. Power feeds money. Money alone starves. The one I wish I'd understood at 30 instead of at 50. On a farm outside Florence with almost nothing. Money without the skill to regenerate it is a number waiting to hit zero. Power. Real capability, real leverage, real relationships built on more than cash, is what refills it when life inevitably empties it. I lost my position, my income, nearly everything material I'd built. I wrote my best work at a small table by candlelight. In debt, hoping a family that barely remembered me would read it and give me back some small post at court. They never did. Not in my lifetime. What I didn't lose was the one thing that was actually mine. The mind that had built everything in the first place. That's what wrote the book that outlived every florin I ever owed, or was owed, and outlived every man who owed me. Chase the skill. The money is just the shadow it casts. I died with empty pockets and a full mind. 500 years later, you're watching a video built entirely from what was in that mind, not what was in those pockets. That tells you which one was actually the asset. If one of these 7 just described a habit that's costing you, don't nod at the screen. Go fix the one that hurt the most before you close this tab. Subscribe for more cold, historical strategy on money and power.